Hey guys, what's up? Today I'll be talking about 10 JRPGs that kill the franchise they belong to. That's right, and whether these games are good or bad, that's beside the point, because the fact remains that these RPGs completely, technically annihilated the series they belong to. Alright, let's begin! Number 10. Vandal Hearts, Flames of Judgment. I don't like talking about games I've never played, but I had to include this one at least as an excuse for me to talk about Vandal Hearts. I absolutely adore the first one on the PS1, as it is among my favorite PS1 RPGs ever, and I also enjoy the second one even with its awkward gameplay mechanics. In fact, that game had practically killed this underrated franchise back in the day due to its mixed reception and strong criticism. But it was Konami that decided to bury it, only to undig its own grave 11 years later to deliver Flames of Judgment. First of all, it looks really weird, nothing like its awesome predecessors. Second, it was digital only for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And third, the one that nailed the coffin forever, absolutely no good marketing was done by Konami nor the new team that developed the game. Can't comment on it since I haven't played it, and to be completely honest, even though it does look interesting, it kinda doesn't feel like something I'd like to play. Number 9. Ark the Lab, End of Darkness. This game sucks! Ark the Lab Collection was an awesome localization by Working Designs back in 2002. It was the very first time we got to experience its 3 main titles, 2 of them great in my opinion, and a third one that was okay to be honest. The fourth one, Twilight of the Spirits on the PS2, blew my mind, and it's one of the best strategy RPGs I've played on the system. But the fifth and final game in the series, the one that absolutely crushed this underrated franchise, was garbage. It was now an action RPG, quest-driven, with a totally random dude as the new main character that no one gave 2 shits about. Not only that, the story was poorly written and uninteresting at its worst. Clunky controls and boring gameplay mechanics obviously contributed to its backlash. I say that because reception of this insulting junk was truly harsh, more so than my own words in this video. In the end, the game was total ass, and it killed the franchise for good. Well, at least Sony left us with 4 decent strategy RPGs that are still totally worth playing nowadays. Number 8. Alondra II. Another action RPG that caused mixed reviews was Alondra II. That second game was enough to kill a very small and promising franchise. I enjoyed the first one and its nerve-wracking puzzles, as well as its dark story and sick characters. Alondra II felt as if it had been done by a completely different team, now being a blatant comedy. Well, in my opinion, this game was honestly not that bad. In fact, I liked it. I still prefer the original Alondra though, but this sequel, that by the way has absolutely nothing to do with the other in terms of story, was just fine. I can see however why it failed at reviews, considering its major differences in terms of everything. You can at least notice the gameplay mechanics are something else, now in 3D with clunky controls, mediocre animations and polygons that look just plain weird. But you know what? I still like this game, and I believe it got more shit than it deserved. But sadly, the fact remains that it killed what could have been a more memorable franchise. Number 7. White Knight Chronicles 2. Another perfect example of a promising franchise dying off with the second game was White Knight Chronicles. The first one was a commercial success, but still didn't do well with the critics. They were saying both games were lackluster with some technical problems and a lazy story. Oh, and that their single player mode was way too short. You know, I agree on some points, but I still love them. I finally put some real hours into the direct sequel that immediately takes off after the events of its underrated predecessor. I gotta admit that the story felt even more lazy this time, but everything else was left intact. Perhaps that was its major problem, barely improving its gameplay mechanics or its real-time strategy combat. You know, I see it as a game cut in half, and you can actually play both parts in the second game released on the PS3. While I don't exactly disagree with the criticism this sequel received, I still think it wasn't reason enough to kill the franchise. Sadly though, reception was so lukewarm that Level 5 abandoned the series and gave up. A third and final game was called Origins as a prequel to both, also a fantastic game in my opinion, released almost everywhere except North America. Yeah, Sony didn't even bother anymore. Number 6. Lufia, Curse of the Sinistrals. What's the best way to kill a franchise? Turn it into action RPG. In truth, sometimes changing a battle system or a subgenre in a series can be fatal. With Lufia, that was exactly the case. It was an amazing franchise that started back in the Super Nintendo with two great classics. Some other games were then released for portable consoles, and that's where its struggles began. However, when it was decided that a remake of the second game in the series, the best one in my opinion, was in order, for some damn reason it was changed from turn-based to action. Honestly, it was kind of mediocre. It felt like a lame version of any Ys game, with some puzzles here and there. Story, character design, and the overall lore was also changed, apparently for the bad. I'm not sure this is a bad game, however, as I still enjoyed what little I played of it, but I certainly felt like I was playing an entirely different adventure and not a remake. Of course, there's a lot of background involved, and I actually covered most of it in my What the Hell Happened to Lufia video. They should have just ignored this failure and continue on with the series, but the mixed reception made developers and publishers abandon it forever. Ah, what a tragedy. Number 5. Shadow Hearts from the New World. This game's far from being a bad game. Of course it can't compare with its two amazing predecessors, but it was still good enough. Nevertheless, the change of atmosphere hurt deeply. It just wasn't dark or gothic anymore. Also, the introduction of a new cast of characters and a story almost completely unrelated to the other games helped into the franchise's demise. To start with, it was never really that successful to begin with, as its games were more niche than anything. It also had an obnoxious beginning with Kudelka on the PS1, another obscure game with mixed criticism. Shadow Hearts from the New World, I think it was made that way in order to take the risk. Yes, the risk of approaching the series to a broader audience. Sadly, even though it was kinda well received, it failed on sales. The development company, Saknoth, later known as Nautilus, died off and stopped making video games. I think this is a good, solid game, and actually the first Shadow Hearts I ever played. But after having played and loved the previous two afterwards, I can see why the blame was put into this one. Number 4. Legaia II Dual Saga. Here's yet another title that died off on the PS2. It is a sequel to the popular cult classic Legend of Legaia on the PS1, conceived and written by Hidenori Shibao. Rest in peace. Unfortunately, due to strong creative differences between Shibao, Sony, and the development team, back then he abandoned the company and never worked on the game's sequel. Legaia II didn't sell well and it was poorly received with mixed criticism. The major backlash came from gamers, even though some of them hadn't even played the original on the PS1 before. That only goes to say how divided the reception was. Even Sony of America didn't even want to bother localizing it. The game still focused on its tactical art system on a turn-based combat, this time delving deeper into a more complex mode. Gameplay-wise, it still retained some elements of its predecessor, but it felt totally different at the same time. Story and characters were kind of forgettable, but they were okay, to be honest. I didn't care that much on that end. I didn't like this game, mainly because of some annoying battles, but I don't consider this as bad. It was just disappointing, I guess, and not only for me. Well, that's the reason why Sony decided to bury the franchise for good. Number 3. Lunar Dragon Song. I've trashed this game way too many times before, more than I can count already, so I'll be quick about it. Needs no introduction as it is universally considered as one of the worst RPGs ever made. It wasn't developed by Game Arts, the original creators of the series, so it's no wonder why it doesn't even feel like a Lunar game. Everything looks really generic, including the story and the characters, which are nowhere near as charming as the ones and its predecessors. Even the battle system feels clumsy and laggy and bad. This obnoxious and putrefied freak killed the experience for almost everybody who played it. I give it 2 chances, man. 2. First time I loathed the game, and a few years later, I thought I had been rough on it, so I went back and gave it another shot. My feelings were exactly the same on both times. Losing health while running? I cannot abide for that idiocy, as it is one of the stupidest decisions ever in a video game. Yeah, Dragon Song killed this charming, beautiful, and classic franchise from the 90s. Number 2. Golden Sun, Dark Dawn. Well, it seems Nintendo DS and PS2 titles were overly present in this list. What a shame. But it's true though, as these games really did kill the franchises. No one has ever seen or heard of a new Golden Sun title ever since the release of Dark Dawn. Is it bad? Hell no! Well, not at least in my opinion. Granted, I'm not a Golden Sun enthusiast, but I did enjoy this game as much as the others. You now play as the sons of the main characters Isaac and Garrett in a story that has charisma and decently written plots overall. I fail to see why some people hate this game with a passion, but I guess I can understand its enormous criticism. Outdated graphics and mechanics, too much fillers of dialogue, watered down difficulty. Hey, I thought it was okay for newcomers, but whatever. Golden Sun Dark Dawn didn't fail miserably as many of the titles in this list. It actually did good, but Nintendo noticed its lack of sales compared to the other two and didn't give a damn if people liked it or not. They just up and killed the franchise for good. Well, that's Nintendo for you. Number 1. Breath of Fire 6. So here is the king of disappointments, a game that I have no clue why I didn't include in my most disappointing JRPGs video. Perhaps because it's much more than that for the people who played it. Apparently, it was such an insult to the series that the hatred was left pretty clear to Capcom, enough not only to shut down the servers, but also shut down the franchise for good. The company didn't listen to the fans. Fans wanted a new, decent, true Breath of Fire game, and not a weird-ass experiment or a mobile phone junkyard. It was a free-to-play RPG for Windows, Android, and iOS that didn't even leave Japan. Well, I guess we should be grateful then. Its servers only lasted for a little bit more than a year. We've seen before how changing a turn-based franchise to an action one often leads to damnation, and here it was no exception. The game was just beyond abominable apparently. I mean, this doesn't look like something I want to play. In fact, it doesn't even look like a Breath of Fire game at all! Well, it brought so much shame and disgrace to the franchise that it tragically dragged it to its grave. Breath of Fire is officially dead. You know, all this mobile bullshit that's been going on for years now, I'm very worried because these tend, as we saw in Breath of Fire 6, to destroy the series. I mean, what's gonna happen to Valkyrie Profile with Valkyrie Anatomia? I mean, it got localized about a year ago. Thankfully, I should say. I don't care for mobile phones. I want a true comeback for Valkyrie Profile. The same with Star Ocean. Star Ocean, a couple of weeks ago, the servers for these mobile bullshit just died. They were shut down. Does that mean Star Ocean is dead too? It's over? What's gonna happen? What about Wild Arms? Jesus. I don't want to make another video of this. I hope not. Because some of the franchise you saw today were freaking amazing. Anyway guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time.